we are paying £215 million a year to turn our wind turbines off. Our wind turbines, yes, the ones that produce electricity offshore and inshore. But why is that? Why is it costing £215 million just to flick a switch? Okay, it's more complicated than that. But also, why are we turning them off anyway? When we've got a shortage of electricity. We were told that we might have blackouts in the United Kingdom. In fact, we were told that as well here in France. But in the United Kingdom, you're producing all this electricity via these wind turbines. Never mind what these flippin' naysayers might be telling you. The fact is, there's a thing called constraint costs, and constraint costs are what it's called when they actually turn these wind turbines off, and it's £215 million a year. Well, as reported in the Sky News, I'll leave a link in the description down below, Britons are paying hundreds of millions of pounds to turn off wind turbines. And this is the reason why. Because the network, our infrastructure, cannot cope. No, they can't cope with the amount of power they're producing on the windiest days. Don't forget, boot the old like button, and there will be a secret word at the end of the day. And you want sports, do it on Patreon or buy us a coffee, and links down below in the description that they are. And there will be a secret word at the end of this video. Oh, I wonder what it could be. So I'll give you a clue. It's to do with hydrogen. Let's get into it, shall we, anyway? So yes, £215 million a year is being spent just to shut off these wind turbines. And eventually, that cost ends up, well, in the consumers' bills. Yeah, you're paying. That you are. So UK consumers are paying hundreds of millions of pounds to turn wind turbines off because the grid cannot cope with the amount of electricity they're producing on the windiest days. Now, the energy regulator, Ofgem, has told Sky News it is because the grid is not yet fit for purpose. Now, I've talked about this before. And we're supposed to be transitioning to electric vehicles by 2035. Where are we going to get all the electricity from? At each, part of the country. At when we need it. Supply and demand. Well, the National Grid Electricity System Operator, the ESO, which is responsible for keeping the lights on, has forecast that these constraint costs, wait for it, may rise to as much as £2.5 billion per year by the middle of this decade. £2.5 billion! Crikey. Now, the problem is, they need to make upgrades to our infrastructure. But are they? No. No, they just want to keep taking money away from you by charging you more. Well, the problem has arisen as more and more wind capacity is built in Scotland. It's an oxymoron. And in the North Sea. But much of that, the demand for electricity continues to come from more densely populated areas in the south of the country. We can't get that electricity from the north to the south. It's not rocket science, no. Well, in order to match supply and demand, the National Grid has to move electricity from where it's being made, hence up in the north, where it's windy, down to where it's actually needed, there in the south. So why on earth aren't they building wind turbines in the south? Oh, I wonder, Jacob Rees. Oh, it'll look awful in my landscape. Do I want them in Somerset? No. Well, at the moment, then, there's not enough cables. Literally. and three pin plugs between Scotland and England to do that. No. There's one major undersea cable off the west coast of the United Kingdom and two main junctions between the Scottish and English transmission networks on land. Now, this bottleneck means that when it's very, very windy for these cables, they just can't handle that amount of electricity that they're producing. Now, you might not know this already, but with wind turbines, all hydropower, anything that requires a generator to produce the electricity, well, you have to use electricity. It's not like a solar panel and you just leave it and, okay, we're not going to use it, it doesn't matter. No. But with wind turbines, which have generators, you have to use that power. Now, for instance, I'm off-grid, you see, relatively about 70% self-efficient. So we've got solar panels, what have you. Not a problem. But when we had the wind turbine up and running, which is not at the moment, but when we had the wind turbine up and running, the problem we had is if we're not using the power, but the wind turbine is still spinning, we have to use it. We have to put it somewhere. So we had a thing called a dump load, which in our case was a little electric radiator, so it would burn the electricity that it's producing. So if we didn't turn it off, in other words, we pulled it out of the direction of the wind, and the wind turbine stopped running, well then, or furl the blades, what have you, what would happen is the dump load would come in otherwise, you see, and burn that electricity. Well, they don't do that on these giant wind turbines. They haven't got giant radiators everywhere to use the electricity. They literally, they lock the blades. They furl the blades so they don't turn. So they don't spin round. Like a whirligig. No, they don't. So they can't store the excess energy. They don't have enough. Well, they are investing, and also they are looking at ways of actually storing this electricity. Because obviously the wind turbines don't blow when there's no wind, so it's only when there's producing too much electricity. So if we could store that electricity in between the farts, the blows of wind, if we could do that, we'd have less of a problem. But those wind turbines create so much flipping electricity. Can you imagine the amount of amp hours you'd require? Millions and millions of amp hours of batteries to be able to store anywhere near what we require, and then disperse it across the country. Because obviously you've got supply and demand. Peak usage. So according to analysis by the energy technology company Axel Energy, using publicly available data from the electricity systems balancing market platform Alexon, it basically balances electricity as for consumption. So it makes sure that areas that require the power at certain times of day, blah 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 blah. So yeah. So National Grid spent £215 million paying wind generators to be turned off. Yeah. And they also spent another, $7.5 million to turn on gas turbines located closer to the source of demand. So we're turning off wind turbines up north, and we're burning gas for gas turbines down south. Lay a blooming cable! God's sake. Well, the costs eventually, obviously, they're passed on to the customer, and that's you. How stupid and idiotic is this? Really? What a waste! So we've been told by 2035, that we're going to be going over get rid of all internal combustion engines, which I agree with. I'd love to get an electric car. I can't afford them, but I'd love to get an electric car. But on the other hand, we're burning huge amounts of gas in electric turbines to produce electricity. Yep, we're wasting electricity. What do you think of that? Please leave it in the comments down below. And my secret word of today is, it's from a film. And it had, I forgot one of the actors already. It's got Keanu Reeves in it. Oh, you got, there's a clue. Hydrogen. Have you got it yet? Well, it is Chain Reaction. The movie Chain Reaction. Quite like that film in the end. Yeah, they managed to tame the generator or something by him playing a tune on the keyboard. Anyway, you tell me what you think. Please leave it in the comments down below. And let's say the secret word of the day is Chain Reaction. If you want to support the channel, you can do that on Patreon, or you can buy us a coffee. And it is very much appreciated. But also, we are planting trees. So we'll take part in that. We're planting 1,000 trees on 2 hectares of land here in France, which you can buy a tree via our GoFundMe link down below. We'll plant a tree on your behalf, and we will make a sign, or I will make a woodwork, make a sign on your behalf, a bit like these was up top here, to go with the tree. And you can message on there, could be your name, or it could be a member of a loved one. Anyway, it's time for me to go, but don't forget, the word of the day is Chain Reaction. 2 words I know. Ta-ta.